Lisa Mitchell stared through the reinforced glass of the observation deck, her green eyes reflecting the swirling purple and blue gases of the Carina Nebula. The deep space research vessel Stellar Pioneer had been her home for the past 3 years, but the beauty of space never ceased to amaze her. As chief science officer, she spent countless hours studying the mysteries of the universe, but today felt different. Something in the pit of her stomach told her this shift would be special. The quiet hum of the ship's engines was interrupted by rapid footsteps approaching behind her. "Dr. Mitchell," called out Junior Officer Kevin Walsh, slightly out of breath. "Captain Brooks needs you on the bridge immediately. Our long-range sensors picked up something unusual." Lisa quickly followed Kevin through the familiar corridors of the ship. The Stellar Pioneer was one of Earth's newest vessels, home to 150 crew members dedicated to pushing the boundaries of human exploration. The pristine white walls and blue lighting strips guided their way as they hurried toward the bridge. Captain Peter Brooks stood at the center of the bridge, his experienced eyes fixed on the main view screen. After 20 years in deep space exploration, very few things could surprise him anymore. But today was different. His usually calm demeanor showed signs of excitement as Lisa entered. "Dr. Mitchell, look at these readings," he said, gesturing to the holographic display floating in front of him. "What do you make of this?" Lisa studied the data streaming across the screen. The energy signatures were like nothing she had ever seen before. They defied every known pattern in their database. Her heart began to race as she realized what this might mean. "Captain, these readings suggest an artificial source," she said, her voice steady despite her excitement. "And it's definitely not human in origin." The bridge crew fell silent. Humanity had searched for signs of intelligent alien life for centuries. There had been hints and traces before, but nothing concrete. Until now. "Sir, the object is changing course," reported Navigation Officer Ben Harris, his fingers dancing across his control panel. "It's heading directly toward us." Captain Brooks straightened his uniform. "All stations, yellow alert. Let's not take any chances. Amy, begin broadcasting our first contact package on all frequencies." Communications Officer Amy Porter nodded and began transmitting the carefully prepared messages and data that humanity had designed for this very moment. The package contained basic mathematical sequences, scientific information, and peaceful greetings in multiple formats. The mysterious vessel grew larger on their view screen as it approached. It was massive, easily 4 times the size of the Stellar Pioneer. Its design was elegant but alien, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to shimmer with an internal light. The hull was covered in intricate patterns that might have been writing or decorative elements. No one could tell for sure. "We're receiving a response," Amy announced, her voice filled with wonder. They're translating our language in real time. They're sending their own first contact protocols." Data began flowing through their systems. The alien vessel belonged to something called the Zarcanian Empire, a spacefaring civilization that had been watching humanity's progress from afar. They had chosen this moment to make contact because humanity had finally reached a level of development they considered worthy of interaction. "They're requesting permission to establish visual communication," Amy reported. Captain Brooks took a deep breath and straightened his shoulders. "Accept the request. Let's make history." The main screen flickered, and for the first time in human history, they saw the face of an alien being. The Zarcanian had silvery blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Its large, almond-shaped eyes were deep purple, and what appeared to be fine, translucent filaments framed its face like hair. "Greetings, vessel Stellar Pioneer." The alien spoke, its words automatically translated by their systems. "We are pleased to make your acquaintance. We are the Zarcanians, and we have been waiting for this moment for a very long time." Lisa felt goosebumps rise on her arms. As a scientist, she had dreamed of this moment her entire life. But something in the Zarcanian's expression made her pause. Behind the diplomatic pleasantries, she could see something else in those alien eyes, something that looked surprisingly like concern, maybe even fear. Little did they know, This historic first contact would reveal a truth about humanity that would send ripples through the entire galactic community. 3 days after first contact, the crew of the Stellar Pioneer was busy preparing for their alien visitors. Ambassador Richard Coleman had arrived via emergency shuttle, bringing with him a team of diplomatic advisors and cultural experts. The ship's mess hall had been transformed into a reception area, with Earth cuisine carefully selected to be safe for Zarcanian consumption. Lisa Mitchell worked alongside the ambassador, reviewing the massive amount of cultural data the aliens had shared. "It's fascinating," she said, gesturing to her tablet. "They've been spacefaring for over 10,000 years, but there's something odd about their ship designs." Richard nodded, his experienced diplomatic face showing a hint of curiosity. "I noticed that too. Their vessels are incredibly advanced, but they seem to follow strange design principles. It's almost as if they're built to be abandoned at the first sign of serious damage." Before they could discuss it further, Captain Brooks's voice came over the intercom. "The Zarcanian delegation is ready to board. All assigned personnel to their positions." The welcoming committee gathered in the main docking bay. Lisa stood next to Amy Porter, who had been chosen as the primary translator despite the advanced translation technology. They watched as the airlock cycled, and 3 Zarcanian representatives emerged. The aliens were tall and graceful, their silvery blue skin seeming to pulse with a subtle inner light. They wore flowing robes covered in intricate patterns that shifted and changed like living things. But what struck Lisa most was their body language. Despite their diplomatic smiles, they moved with obvious tension, as if ready to retreat at any moment. "Welcome aboard the Stellar Pioneer," Ambassador Coleman said warmly. "We are honored by your presence." The lead Zarcanian, who had introduced itself as first speaker Zelra, bowed slightly. "The honor is ours, though we must admit, boarding your vessel has been a matter of much discussion among our people." As they began the tour, Lisa noticed how the aliens flinched at every normal ship sound. The hum of the engines, the slight vibration of the deck plates, the hiss of opening doors. When engineer Stephen Phillips proudly showed them the backup systems and redundant power grid, their reaction was particularly strange. "You mean this vessel can continue to function even after sustaining significant damage?" Zelra asked, its purple eyes widening. "Of course," Stephen replied with pride. "We have backup systems for our backup systems. It's standard procedure on all human vessels." The aliens exchanged worried glances, their skin shifting to a paler shade of blue. During the tour's lunch break, Amy Porter pulled Lisa aside. "Have you noticed how they react whenever we mention anything about ship operations? It's like they're horrified by standard safety procedures." Lisa had noticed. She watched as the aliens cautiously examined their surroundings, their eyes lingering on every access panel and emergency station. When a routine maintenance announcement came over the intercom, all 3 visitors visibly jumped. "Your people live on these vessels for extended periods." Another Zarcanian, technical observer Venti, asked Captain Brooks. "Some of our crew have been aboard for years," the captain replied. "The Stellar Pioneer is their home." The alien's skin rippled with what looked like discomfort. "And you, repair the vessel while it is in operation." "Naturally," Brooks answered. "Space is unpredictable. We need to be ready for anything." Later, in a private moment, first speaker Zelra approached Lisa. "Dr. Mitchell, we have accessed many historical records about human vessels. We find them disturbing." "Disturbing?" Lisa asked, surprised. "In what way?" The alien seemed to struggle with the question. "Your ships, they are unlike anything in our experience. The way you design them, operate them, live in them, it goes against everything we understand about space travel." Before Lisa could ask for clarification, an alarm blared through the ship. "All hands, yellow alert," Captain Brooks's voice announced. "We're picking up unusual readings from the nebula. All visitors to secure locations." The Zarcanians immediately requested to return to their vessel. As they hurried back to the airlock, Lisa caught fragments of their worried conversation through Amy's translator. Just like the ancient warnings, they actually live inside their war machines. How do they endure it? Lisa watched them leave, more confused than ever. What exactly did these advanced aliens find so terrifying about human ships? The answer, she suspected, would change everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. Amy Porter couldn't sleep. The communications officer sat in her quarters, replaying recordings of the Zarcanian visitors' conversations. After 3 weeks of regular communications with the alien vessel, something about their behavior didn't add up. She had spent years studying patterns in language and communication, and her instincts told her the aliens were hiding something important. She played another recording, this time focusing on the aliens' reactions rather than their words. Every time the conversation turned to human ship design or operation protocols, their skin would shift color slightly, and their speech patterns would change. Her translation software had picked up subtle stress indicators in their voice frequencies. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Lisa Mitchell stood there, looking equally troubled. "You're still up too?" the science officer asked, entering with 2 cups of coffee. "I can't stop thinking about how they acted during the tour," Amy said, accepting the coffee gratefully. "Did you know they've refused 3 more invitations to visit our ship? They'll talk with us for hours on video calls, but they won't step foot on board again." Lisa sat down at Amy's desk, looking at the data displayed on the screens. "I've been doing some research too. Look at this." She pulled up an image from the Zarcanian cultural database. This is what their emergency protocols look like. When their ships take serious damage, the crew immediately evacuates to rescue pods. They consider it normal to abandon ship at the first sign of trouble. Amy frowned. That doesn't make sense. Their technology is far more advanced than ours. Why would they give up their ships so easily? Just then, Amy's computer beeped with an incoming transmission. The Zarcanian ship was sending another data packet. As she began the standard download procedure, something caught her eye. Hidden within the regular cultural exchange files was an encrypted data stream. "Lisa, look at this," Amy said, pointing to her screen. "They've been sending this encrypted signal buried in their regular transmissions. It's not meant for us. It's being broadcast to other points in space." Both women worked together, using the ship's computers to analyze the signal pattern. After several hours, they managed to decode a small portion of the message. What they found sent chills down their spines. "Warning to all spacefaring species," Annie read aloud. "Humans demonstrate concerning traits similar to the ancient terror. Exercise extreme caution. Their vessels show multiple matching characteristics with historical records from the Great Devastation." Lisa leaned back in her chair, her face pale. The ancient terror, the Great Devastation. What are they talking about? Amy continued working on the decryption. More fragments became clear, like their water vessels of old. "Continue fighting beyond all reasonable limits. Crew refuses to abandon. Repair damaged sections while still in combat." "Wait," Lisa interrupted. "Water vessels of old. They're talking about our naval history, but how would they know about that?" Before they could discuss it further, the ship's alert system activated. Captain Brooks's voice came over the intercom. "Senior staff to the bridge immediately. The Zarcanians are requesting an emergency conference." When they arrived on the bridge, the main screen showed first speaker Zelra. The alien's skin had turned an almost white shade of blue. "We have received word that several of our deep space outposts have gone silent," the alien announced. "We believe hostile forces are moving through this sector. We must warn you. Your vessel should retreat to safer space immediately." Captain Brooks straightened in his chair. "If there's danger, perhaps we can help. The Stellar Pioneer may not be a warship, but we're well equipped to defend ourselves." The alien's reaction was immediate and striking. Its skin rippled with visible distress. "No, you don't understand. We've seen your historical records. We know what human vessels become in combat. We cannot. We must not." The transmission suddenly cut off as the ship's sensors began blaring warnings. Multiple unknown vessels were dropping out of faster-than-light travel nearby. The mystery of the aliens' fear would have to wait. They had more immediate problems to deal with. Amy and Lisa exchanged worried looks. Whatever the Zarcanians had discovered in humanity's past had terrified them. Soon, they would all find out why. Research specialist Daniel Wright hadn't left his lab for 20 hours straight. After Amy Porter had discovered the encrypted alien messages, he had been given full access to the Zarcanian cultural database. Something in their historical records held the key to understanding their fear of human ships, and he was determined to find it. His computer screen showed countless alien documents, translated into English by the ship's eye. Most of it was standard cultural information, but buried deep within the oldest files, he found something different. The record spoke of an event called the Great Devastation that happened on Earth's oceans during what humans knew as World War II. Daniel's hands shook as he read the report. The Zarcanians had been secretly observing Earth for centuries. In 1944, one of their stealth ships had witnessed a naval battle in the Pacific Ocean. What they saw that day had become a warning passed down through generations of spacefaring races. He quickly called the emergency meeting Captain Brooks had authorized. Within minutes, the ship's senior staff gathered in the conference room. The tension in the air was thick. The unknown hostile ships were still out there, holding position just outside weapon range. "I found it," Daniel said, projecting his findings onto the room's main screen. "The Zarcanians saw one of our naval battles during World War II. Specifically, they watched the battle off Samar." Lisa Mitchell leaned forward. The battle off Samar. Why would that scare them so much? Daniel pulled up the alien observation records. Because they saw something that went against everything they believed about warfare and ship combat. They watched as a small group of American ships, hopelessly outgunned, refused to retreat from a far superior Japanese force. The room grew quiet as Daniel continued. According to their records, they were horrified. They watched human crews continue fighting even as their ships caught fire and took devastating damage. They saw sailors manually operate gun turrets when power failed. They witnessed ships stay in battle formation, even while burning and sinking. Captain Brooks nodded slowly. The destroyers and escort carriers at Samar. They stood their ground against battleships and heavy cruisers. But that's not what terrified them the most, Daniel said, pulling up more translated text. What truly shocked them was what happened afterward. They saw the damaged ships that survived being repaired and sent back into battle. In their culture, any ship that takes serious damage is considered lost. The idea of repairing a battle-damaged vessel is unthinkable to them. Amy Porter's eyes widened as she made the connection. That's why they were so disturbed by our backup systems and repair protocols. They think it's unnatural. Exactly, Daniel confirmed. The Zarcanians, and apparently most alien races, believe that once a ship is seriously damaged, it should be abandoned. The idea of a crew staying aboard a damaged vessel, fighting to save it, making repairs during battle, it goes against their most basic instincts. Lisa stood up and walked to the screen, reading the alien text. According to this, they classified human ships as vessels of perpetual endurance, ships that refuse to die, crewed by beings who won't abandon them. "There's more," Daniel said quietly. "They've been watching our space program too. They saw how we handled disasters like Apollo 13. When our ships get damaged, we don't abandon them. We fix them. When systems fail, we improvise. When things go wrong, we adapt." Captain Brooks was about to respond when the ship's alert system blared again. Then Harris's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, to the bridge. The hostile ships are moving into attack formation." As the senior staff rushed to their stations, Daniel could see understanding in their eyes. The Zarcanians hadn't been afraid of their weapons or their technology. They were afraid of humanity's stubborn determination, their refusal to abandon ship, their ability to keep fighting long after any other species would have given up. The Stellar Pioneer was about to show their unknown attackers exactly why that reputation was well-deserved. Security Chief Kate Martinez worked quickly with engineer Stephen Phillips in the ship's main control room. After learning about the Zarcanians' observations of human naval warfare, they needed to understand exactly what made human vessels so different from alien ships. "Look at these scans of the Zarcanian vessel," Stephen said, pointing to his screen. "Their ship is incredibly advanced, but it's built like a delicate piece of art. One solid hit to any major system, and the whole section is designed to be sealed off and abandoned." Kate nodded as she studied the emergency protocols they had received during the cultural exchange. "They have escape pods for their escape pods," she said. "No backup systems, no damage control teams. They just give up and leave." The hostile ships were getting closer. Through the control room windows, Kate could see crew members running to their battle stations. Unlike the Zarcanians, humans had learned hard lessons over centuries of warfare at sea. Those lessons had carried into space. "Our ships are different," Stephen explained, pulling up the Stellar Pioneer schematics. "See these bulkheads? They're designed to contain damage. Every critical system has at least 2 backups. We can route power through secondary and even tertiary circuits." Kate walked over to the damage control station, where repair teams were checking their equipment. "And we have these," she said, patting a repair kit. "Tools, spare parts, and trained crews ready to fix problems even in the middle of a fight." The ship's computer showed them more translated alien documents. The Zarcanians had been horrified when they discovered that humans would intentionally put repair crews in dangerous situations to save their ships. The very idea of running toward damage instead of away from it seemed insane to them. "They don't understand us," Kate said, reading the alien observations. "To them, a ship is just a tool to be discarded when damaged. To us, it's home," Stephen finished. "It's not just metal and circuits. It's the people inside, the memories made here, the missions completed together. We fight to save our ships because they're part of us." The alert system suddenly changed its tone. "All hands, this is Captain Brooks. The hostile ships have been identified as raiders known to the Zarcanians. They prey on damaged or vulnerable vessels. They expect us to run or surrender when hit. Let's show them how humans handle ship combat." Kate and Stephen exchanged determined looks. Around them, repair teams grabbed their gear. Medical staff prepared emergency treatment centers throughout the ship. Gunners ran system checks on their weapons. Every crew member knew their role in keeping the Stellar Pioneer fighting. "The raiders think we'll be like the alien ships they usually attack," Kate said, checking her tactical display. "They don't know about the battle off Samar. They don't know about the U.S. Johnston or the Samuel B. Roberts. They don't know about ships too stubborn to sink." Stephen moved to his engineering station as the first warning shots flashed past the ship. "They're about to learn what the Zarcanians learned in 1944, he said. "Human ships don't die easily, and their crews never stop fighting." From the bridge came Captain Brooks's voice. "All hands, battle stations, engineering, prepare backup systems, damage control teams to your positions, medical, ready all treatment centers, security, arm all defensive systems." The Stellar Pioneer's shields hummed to life. Unlike the elegant but fragile alien vessels, the human ship was built to take hits and keep going. Every deck had emergency supplies. Every corridor had repair equipment. Every crew member was trained to help keep their ship alive. Through the windows, Kate and Stephen could see the Zarcanian ship watching from a safe distance. Now they would understand why their ancestors had been so shaken by what they saw in Earth's oceans. Now they would see that humans hadn't changed. They had taken their naval traditions into space, building vessels that could endure what would destroy other ships. The raiders were about to learn a lesson that would echo across the galaxy. Never underestimate a human vessel or the crew that calls it home. The first hit rocked the Stellar Pioneer hard. On the bridge, Captain Brooks held onto his chair as the raider ships launched their attack. 3 sleek, predatory vessels circled their position, firing energy weapons designed to disable crucial systems. Direct hit to decks 3 and 4. Ben Harris called out from his station. Shield generators are damaged. In normal alien battles, this would be the moment to abandon ship. But the Stellar Pioneer wasn't a normal alien vessel. Damage control teams, respond. Kate Martinez's voice came over the intercom. Rerouting power through secondary shields. Engineering, status report. Stephen Phillips's voice crackled back. Working on it. Switching to backup generators. Give us 2 minutes. The raiders struck again, clearly confused by the human ship's continued resistance. Their weapons were precise, targeting what should have been critical weak points. But the Stellar Pioneer had been built differently. Lisa Mitchell watched from her science station as the Zarcanian ship's sensors recorded everything. They're scanning us, she reported. They can't understand why we haven't started evacuation procedures. Another blast rocked the ship. Smoke filled one side of the bridge, but nobody left their posts. Emergency systems kicked in automatically, and repair crews rushed to seal damaged sections. Port weapons are offline, the weapons officer reported. Switching to secondary arrays. Captain Brooks smiled grimly. Return fire. Show them what happens when you corner a human vessel. The Stellar Pioneer's weapons blazed to life. The raiders had expected to face a defenseless target by now. Instead, they found themselves under attack from a ship that refused to die. Sir, Amy Porter called out. We're receiving transmissions between the raider ships. They're panicking. They've never seen a vessel continue fighting after taking this much damage. In engineering, Stephen worked with his teams to keep the ship's systems running. When automated repairs failed, they did the work by hand. When standard tools weren't enough, they improvised. The raiders had disabled their main power core, but they didn't know about the backup systems, or the backups for those backups. A repair team led by Kate raced through the smoke-filled corridors of Deck 4, carrying tools and emergency patches. They wore protective suits but didn't hesitate to enter damaged areas. To the watching Zarcanians, it must have looked like madness. Crew members running toward danger instead of away from it. Got it, Stephen's voice shouted over the comm. Main power restored. Shields back to 60%. The raiders broke formation, clearly unsettled by their target's resilience. They had disabled systems that should have crippled the ship, yet the Stellar Pioneer kept fighting back. Lisa's console lit up with new data. The raiders are sending emergency signals. They're calling for help. They're saying we're not going down like we're supposed to. The battle continued for another 20 minutes. The Stellar Pioneer took heavy damage, but for every system the raiders destroyed, the crew found a way to adapt. When main weapons failed, they used backups. When standard shields dropped, they rerouted power to create new ones. When hull breaches threatened, repair teams sealed them. Finally, the raider ships broke off their attack. Their own vessels had taken damage they couldn't repair in battle like the humans could. As they retreated into faster-than-light travel, the bridge crew of the Stellar Pioneer watched the Zarcanian vessel approach. Incoming transmission, Amy announced. Its first speaker, Zelra. The alien's image appeared on their damaged but functioning main screen. Its skin had turned an intense shade of blue that none of them had seen before. Now we truly understand, Zelra said, its voice filled with a mixture of awe and fear. The ancient records were right. Your vessels, they are alive in a way ours can never be. Your crew, they fight for their ship as if it were part of their own body. Captain Brooks looked around his bridge. Despite the smoke and damage, not a single crew member had abandoned their post. Just like their ancestors on Earth's oceans, they had fought to save their ship. And they had won. That's the thing about human vessels, Brooks replied simply. They're not just ships. They're home. Word spread quickly through the galactic community about what happened in the Carina Nebula. The Zarcanians shared their sensor recordings of the battle, and soon every spacefaring race had seen how the human vessel fought. The footage became required viewing at alien space academies, marked with warnings about engaging human ships in combat. 3 months after the battle, the Stellar Pioneer sat in Earth's orbital dock for repairs. Lisa Mitchell stood at a viewport, watching repair crews work on the outer hull. Next to her, Amy Porter read the latest reports from the diplomatic corps. "They're calling us the Undying now," Amy said, showing Lisa her tablet. "Every alien news network is talking about how human ships refuse to die. Some of them think we use some kind of special technology. They can't believe it's just the way we build and crew our vessels." The ship's corridors still showed signs of the battle. Some walls had temporary patches, and certain systems still ran on backup power, but nobody had abandoned their posts that day. Not a single crew member had taken to the escape pods. "The Zarcanians have officially changed their first contact protocols," Amy continued reading. "All races are now warned that human vessels operate under different rules. They've actually classified our ships as living fortresses, places that become part of their crew's identity." Captain Brooks joined them at the viewport, carrying fresh coffee for everyone. In the 3 months since the battle, he had received countless messages from alien commanders, all asking the same question: how do humans build such resilient crews? "I tried explaining it to first speaker Zullery yesterday," the captain said, handing out the coffee cups. "About how Earth's naval traditions shaped our approach to space travel. About how sailors have always seen their ships as more than just vehicles." Lisa smiled, remembering the aliens' shocked reactions. "Did you tell them about how ancient sailing ships would repair damage during storms, or how submarine crews would work together in silence to survive underwater?" "I did," Brooks nodded, "but I don't think they'll ever truly understand. To them, a ship is a tool. To us, it's home," Amy finished. "That's what scared them most, isn't it? Not just that we can keep our ships fighting, but that we want to. That we choose to stay and repair rather than run away." Through the viewport, they could see another ship arriving at the dock. It was a Zarcanian diplomatic vessel, the first ever to visit Earth. But unlike their previous meetings, the aliens had requested to stay on their own ship. The memory of what they had witnessed was still too fresh. "Did you see the new training programs they're developing?" Lisa asked. "Every alien military force is now required to study the battle off Samar from World War II. They're using it as an example of why human ships should never be underestimated." Daniel Wright joined them, carrying more reports from the alien databases. "It's not just military forces," he added. "Civilian ships are being redesigned. Some races are actually trying to copy our damage control procedures. They still won't stay aboard during serious damage, but they're learning." A message flashed on their tablets. More alien delegations were arriving to study human shipbuilding techniques. None of them would board human vessels, but they all wanted to understand how these strange creatures from Earth had taken their ocean-going traditions into space. "You know what's funny?" Captain Brooks said, watching the Zarcanian ship dock. "They're so afraid of how we handle our ships, but they never asked why we do it. They never understood that it's not about the ship surviving. It's about the crew working together. About protecting our home and each other." The others nodded, understanding what their alien friends might never grasp. Human vessels were feared across the galaxy not because of their weapons or technology, but because of the unbreakable bond between ship and crew. Every dent in the Stellar Pioneer's hull, every patched corridor, every repaired system told a story of people who refused to give up on their home among the stars. "Well," Lisa said, raising her coffee cup, "here's to the reputation we've earned. May it keep other raiders from making the same mistake." They all smiled, knowing that somewhere in the galaxy, alien ships were changing course to avoid human vessels, not because they were dangerous, but because they were something far more terrifying to alien minds. They were ships that refused to die, crewed by people who would never stop fighting to keep them alive.